Hey everyone, welcome back. You know how much we love to really dig deep into the nitty-gritty of personal finance, right? Well, today we're tackling something that might seem a little, well, boring at first glance.
Yeah.
We're talking about old addresses on your credit report. Yeah, you heard that right. But trust me, stick around, because this is way more important than you might think.
It really is. It's like one of those things that just kind of fades into the background, but it can actually have some pretty significant consequences.
Exactly. And to guide us through this deep dive, we're taking inspiration from an episode we found super helpful called, podcast episode 15, How to Remove Old Addresses from Your Credit Report, from a show called Clearing Your Credit Report.
Catchy title, huh?
Oh yeah, really rolls right off the tongue. But in all seriousness, this episode breaks down why those old addresses hanging around on your credit report can actually cause some real problems and, more importantly, how to get rid of them.
You know, it's funny because the hosts of that episode actually use a pretty clever analogy to drive home the point. They compare old addresses on your credit report to like a clingy ex that just won't go away.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So just like that ex who keeps popping up in unexpected places, those old addresses can come back to haunt you even after you've moved on. They're just kind of lurking there in the background, creating this unnecessary baggage.
Okay, so it's not just about being super organized and keeping things tidy. There's actually a real risk involved here.
Right. And the episode really spells out two big reasons why we should care about this. The first one is identity theft.
Oh, wow. That's scary. I can see how that could be a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. See, identity thieves are always looking for those little bits of information that they can piece together, right? And old addresses, well, they can be a goldmine for them.
So they could use those old addresses to, like, open up credit cards in someone else's name.
Exactly. Like, let's say a fraudster has your name and maybe your social security number, but they're missing your current address. If they can find an old address on your credit report, boom, suddenly their application looks a lot more legit.
Wow, that's definitely not something I'd want to mess around with.
And then there's the second big issue the episode talks about, which is that all those old addresses can actually make you look kind of bad to lenders.
Oh, interesting. How so? I mean, I've always paid my bills on time.
Well, yeah, but think about it from the lender's perspective. They see a credit report with a whole bunch of different addresses over a short period of time, and it might make them think, is this person kind of flighty? Or are they trying to hide something, you know?
So it's not just about the actual information itself, but how it might be perceived.
Exactly. And when lenders get hesitant, it can mean higher interest rates, trouble getting approved for loans, and just an overall headache when it comes to managing your finances.
Okay, so we've established that this is definitely something worth paying attention to. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of how to actually fix it. What are the steps involved in removing those old addresses from your credit report?
Well, the episode we're referencing actually lays out a pretty clear step-by-step process, and it all starts with getting a copy of your credit report. You know you're entitled to a free report from each of the three major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, every year.
Right, and you can get those at annualcreditreport.com.
Yes, exactly. That's the official website, so it's the safest and easiest way to go.
So you get your reports, you see all these old addresses. What's next?
All right, so now it's time to reach out to each of the credit bureaus directly and officially request that they remove those outdated addresses.
And how do you do that? Do you just call them up, send an email?
Well, each bureau will have its own preferred methods of contact, and the episode recommends checking their websites for the most up-to-date info. Some might have an online portal you can use. Others might prefer a good old-fashioned phone call or even a written letter. But no matter how you choose to contact them, there's one thing that's super important: documentation.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. You have to prove who you are and where you actually live now.
Exactly. So be prepared to provide a copy of your driver's license or other government-issued ID and something that verifies your current address, like a recent utility bill or a bank statement.
And I bet it's a good idea to keep records of all your communication with the credit bureaus too, right? Like when you contacted them and any reference numbers they give you.
Oh, absolutely. That's such a good point. Having all that information organized can be a lifesaver if you need to follow up on your request or if there are any discrepancies down the line.
Okay, so far so good. But what happens if, let's say, a credit bureau refuses to remove an old address? What can you do then?
That's a great question, and unfortunately, it does happen sometimes. But the key thing to remember is that you do have rights. If an address is genuinely outdated and it's not connected to any current accounts or anything like that, you absolutely have the right to have it removed from your credit report.
So what's the best way to handle that kind of situation?
Well, the first thing you should do is put your request in writing, send a formal letter to the credit bureau, clearly explaining why you believe the information should be removed and reiterating your request. Sometimes just having everything laid out in writing can be enough to get the ball rolling.
Okay, but what if even after you've sent the letter, they're still digging in their heels? What's the next step?
Well, in those cases, you can actually escalate things a bit and file a complaint with the CFPB.
The CFP?
Yeah, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They're a government agency that's specifically dedicated to protecting consumers in all things finance.
Oh, right, of course. So they have the power to actually step in and help resolve disputes with credit bureaus.
Exactly. They can investigate complaints, and if they find that a company has been engaging in, unfair or deceptive practices, they can actually take action against them.
Wow, that's good to know. So the CFPB can be a really powerful ally if you're running into roadblocks.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that we're not totally powerless in these situations.
So let's do a quick recap of what we've covered today. First, we talked about why having old addresses on your credit report can be a big deal, especially when it comes to protecting yourself from identity theft and presenting yourself in the best possible light to lenders. We then went through the step-by-step process for getting those old addresses removed, starting with obtaining your credit reports and then contacting each credit bureau directly. And finally, we discussed what to do if you encounter any resistance, emphasizing that you have rights and that resources like the CFPB are there to help you navigate these situations.
Well said. Thinking about all this, it makes me wonder, how much does having a truly accurate and up-to-date credit report affect our access to other financial opportunities we might not even be thinking about?
That's a really interesting question. It's like, yeah, we think about loans and credit cards, but what about things like renting an apartment or even getting certain jobs? There's so much that relies on our credit history.
Exactly. It's this ripple effect that we might not even be fully aware of.
So much food for thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. And as always, we love hearing from you. Have you ever had to deal with old addresses on your credit report? What was your experience like? Let us know.
We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
If this podcast helped you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep making these videos. Thanks for watching.